Welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Starr Mazer DSP has returned to Steam. And turns out it runs on Linux and 7 Days to Die. Has it received another alpha update? Yes, well, yes, it's still an alpha after 5 years.
There was just a shortage of games on Linux featuring chariot-riding penis monsters until this week. And Steam Link is getting integrated into TVs. It's called a super long HDMI cable.
The new Steam client beta is very, very precise about its controller hot plugging in a vague sort of way. And Golf with Friends gets the loneliest update ever.
Oh, that almost makes me... I'm just kidding. Nothing makes me sad. I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, doing the Nightmare Fuel, running the boards, popping in and commenting on occasion. Joined every week by our Canadian bureau chief at Master Sving.
I'm crying so hard on the inside, but you just can't see it because I'm dead inside.
And oh shit. Oh my god, he's back. The Jersey Girl himself, Leprechaun for Life, one Mr. Mike T. Hatton.
Hello, Internet.
Loves us so much he even came to work. And it's kind of brilliant. And together with Shadowrealm Dynamic, joining us in Discord and the IRCs, helping us form that last little bit. Notice Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. Gentlemen, I had not a copyright strike on YouTube, but one of those, I want to monetize your hour-long video because I detected a 4-second clip of some background music and onomatopoeia gates of huge manatees. Dick. Yeah, that was the thing. Two songs. Apparently it was the guy's songs, but just going back and listening to it, it was like, how did that even pick it up? Couldn't find a way to contact the guy. It was going to be good. I downloaded it, scrubbed those segments out. Thanks, YouTube, for giving me the exact time codes on that. Also picked up the world's cheapest green screen on Prime Day for, I think, 13 wet stinky caches. That was a thing. It's set up. Haven't plugged it in yet, so maybe we'll play with that a bit later. What's going on, baby?
Well, I went and made a bad financial decision, bought me one of these.
Oh, shit. That's a Samsung 9.6, not Evo M.2.
It is. And let me tell you the story about getting this fucker installed. It's called, we're playing everyone's favorite games, Big Hands, Tiny Screw.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because what happened was there's this little itty bitty mounting screw. It's one of these nested screws in the motherboard. So I unscrewed it, and it took the entire mounting structure out with it. So now I got to find the tiny ass screwdriver and unscrew the nested screw, screw the other one back in. I thought, you know what, I might be able to just snap this in. No, I had to straight up remove the 980 because there's not enough room between that and the heatsink.
Oh.
So by the way, pro tip, if you're going to install an M.2 drive, an NVMe drive, update your BIOS before you do that, because sometimes the BIOS your MOBO ships with doesn't exactly have the most compatible stuff. So that's another thing, but I installed Fedora 26 on it. Incredibly painless. The installer said, hey, you got an NVMe drive installed. You want to throw shit on there? Hell yeah, I do. So everything is all up and running. I'm on F26 right now. It's pretty nice. The one niggling issue, both Light DM and GDM don't start up on boot. If you log into root and then start them up, they work perfectly fine. But apparently there's some glibc hash map error that I've yet to devote time to dig into. But, you know, everything is super crazy fast. I copied about 400 gigs in 7 seconds. It was kind of mental. The computer now boots faster than the amount of time it takes for the monitor to cycle through all the inputs before it gets to DisplayPort. So it's pretty fucking nice. I like it.
Pretty sweet. What's going on the island?
Not too much. As you can see, I'm so dedicated to the Linux Gamecast life that I'm here at the office podcasting on a Saturday night. We do what we have to make the Linux news happen.
Well, that one thing that we're going to, first of all, I thank you for the enthusiasm. That was pretty good. But one thing that happens every week, Jay baby, that's the horse.
Yeah, I tried plugging this into the horse because apparently there's some kind of update, but all it does is make this squishing noise. It's the Steam Linux
Update.
All right, tell us about the plugs.
Yeah, so we got a new Steam beta update. A couple little boring updates about, fixing stuff on OS X and crash detections and whatnot. The real interesting bit comes with the Steam input, where if 4 controllers are connected while streaming and a local controller is available, if a remote controller is disconnected, the local controller will seamlessly drop into that slot when used. That's a very specific use case that they've fixed here, and I'm trying my very hardest to understand what scenario could this actually happen in.
I'm guessing Gabe Newell had an issue at some point.
Yeah, no, he was
much.
trying to play some speedrunners, and he was in his main room, and he needed to move to the TV room, and it's like, oh, god damn it, now my controllers don't work. But they have a couple of these.
Confusing because it's talking about if there are 4 controllers local and another one, or I don't know. Any improvements are good, but maybe you want to focus on a little broader.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing with like the Steam streaming stuff specifically, it's meant to be like a seamless thing, so you can stop playing your game in one room and move to the other one. So that should hopefully. Oh, you know what that could be is if you're moving controllers from one room to another because you only have so many. That could definitely be a thing.
Man, I'm just going to say, if there's ever a situation where I'm bringing the controller from one Steam box from a PC to that, just put me down, man. It's like. I don't know. Nope. All right. Anyway.
Well, I mean, you might have, or some people might have a use case sooner rather than later. Steam Link. Oh yeah. So because the Steam Link is actually a pretty rinky-dinky device. They're talking about adding a Steam Link app to Samsung televisions so that you can just stream Steam games from your smart television. Because you want Samsung to get reporting and telemetry on the sorts of games you're playing so that they can target ads more effectively to you. And then drop support 2 years later when they release a new model of TV, leaving you nice and high and dry. But for now, they're looking at distributing some 1080p 60 streaming with the potential for some UHD streaming down the line. Though I gotta say, if you're streaming UHD over your network, you're gonna run into some problems. You need some Cat 6. You need something. I'm not even sure they ship gigabit with smart TVs.
Right now, the 10 gigabit has gotten reasonably affordable. You can pick them up for like £100 for a 10G, but then you're gonna need a 10G switch and
10G Ethernet cards, which are not cheap either.
Well, that's $100 part. This would only. As an app on a Samsung TV. But if you're wondering how come the hardware was getting so wicked cheap, pretty sure we're not going to see another production run of the Steam Links. I just don't think we are. And we will see some apps rolling out of some TVs. This doesn't interest me until we get something like the Raspberry Pi compute module standardized for all TVs, so you can just pop it out and pop a new one in when an upgrade cycle comes, because let's face it, you're not going to be upgrading your 50-inch quantum dot OLED TV every 3 or 4 years.
That is clearly a pipe dream. All television manufacturers want you to do is buy a new television every 3 years. Ideally, every year, but they know people can't afford that. So that shit is never going to happen, let alone having a standardized, the amount of bullshit required to have a standardized interface for some sort of compute module. It's a lovely dream. I just don't see it coming anytime soon.
Empty or would be in cray-cray?
A little bit. I think really the most important part of the Steam Link is the video decode. And since all these TVs can do Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and all that stuff, they've got the video decode. The only part that I'm not sure about is the Steam Link has a built-in controller for the Steam controller. So they're going to start building that in.
Well, most TVs ship into
the TV.
Most TVs ship with USB ports anyways, so you can put like a splitter or something in there.
Okay, can you just imagine like pulling that TV off the wall when it's attached to the USB cable and
right, or having to dig behind it when you want to go plug in your Xbox controller or something. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. There's definitely some implementation details that they're going to have to sort here. But I don't see any reason that it won't work.
For sure. But speaking of updates and not getting some, here's a game that hasn't gotten an update in a while. Half-Life, man.
Vulcan confirmed.
Not quite. I don't think they're going to go back and port Gold Source to Vulcan. But they fixed a couple crashes. Apparently, some people are still reporting some crashes and bugs.
You say that like it's such an impossibility, and Crow Team's like, bitch, what?
Oh, okay, but that's Crow Team. They are genuine psychopaths. I think there's something legitimately wrong with a lot of them.
I had to bring that up, man.
This is fair. So this came out on July 10th. There's some malformed SAV lines written, so there's some save issues. There's some crashes that they fixed. I mean, this isn't the first time that they've released a patch for Half-Life recently. I actually went back in the news section. There were a couple even after they released the Linux version of the OG Half-Life, and that was just stability and security stuff. So it's weird, but it's not entirely out of the blue. Good on Valve for at least listening to their users when they say their games are busted. But where's that Alien Swarm SDK, man? Come on.
Hey, man, I mean, it's great that they went back and updated it. It's definitely a thing I've put like maybe an hour into the original Half-Life. Kind of waiting on the Black Mesa to come out of early access so I can kind of see it where it's not so completely fugly because, well, we didn't get Half-Life until, what, like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
So, empty thoughts?
Yeah, Half-Life has definitely aged. I wonder why they keep this thing alive if they're only going to poke at it with little small fixes. You think they have like a 20% time where you get to do your own projects or whatever, and some employee just took it upon themselves to do this? I mean, I can't see any mandate from corporate like, oh yes, let's update our original.
Well, you got to think about it. I mean, it's Valve. No one. You work on what you want to work on at Valve. So
I bet you a quarter one of these Canadian Monopoly coins that it was Gabe is like, oh shit, I know exactly what to do.
Oh man, I haven't looked at this code in a long time. Right. This is fun.
Hey, we're just having a good time, man. So, controversy aside, Starr Mazer, DSP, the whole Alex Mauler thing that went down issuing a bunch of DCMA strikes to anyone who posted a Let's Play of this game. And it's back on Steam, even so far as to issue a copyright claim because she had did the soundtrack and we don't have time to cover it in this show. Got it pulled from Steam. But it has returned. I don't know if they've swapped out the audio, but most importantly, which I didn't know, it is available on Linux, so that's pretty cool. It's an old school. It reminds me of like Hellfire for the Genesis. If anyone ever played that,
or Gradius or something like that.
Yeah. I was thinking Gradius. Bullet hell shooter 2D. Style.
I mean, it's hipster pixel, but it looks like it's hipster pixel done right. You shoot 'em up, shmup type business going on, and very well done from watching the video. Currently available for 9.99 wet stinky caches. I don't know if they had to go back and replace bits of the soundtrack or anything like that. I haven't followed the story outside of couldn't avoid it a couple of times, and it's not that's just this game that was affected. Also, River City Ransom and the zombie.
River City Ransom is off Steam right now because of the DMCA takedown. It has not been put back yet.
And also Death Road to Canada was. So
not Canadian zombies, eh?
Yeah. That's the thing. You guys have any thoughts, hints, suggestions on this one? Oh.
I mean, I haven't really been following the controversy. It's good to see that's back up on Steam, though. Death Road to Canada was actually pretty fun. I could have just used some network multiplayer.
Yeah.
This is just an example of how broken our copyright and DMCA systems are here in the States. That a crazy person can abuse them to go after a company.
We could do an entire podcast on that, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How about we just play the back nine?
Golf with friends gets lonely. So we got another Golf with Friends updates that maybe fixes Linux issues by updating to the most recent version of Unity.
Vulkan with friends, come on, Vulkan confirmed.
Oh boy.
Oh yes,
But,
this fucking game needs an extra added layer of jank. Nope.
And
yeah.
but the big news with this update is that there is now a single player, so you can golf with your friends without your friends.
It's the I have no friends update.
Perfect sense if you just don't think about it too much.
Well, and
Good for
it's
people
not even
that don't have network, I guess, but that kind of defeats the point of a multiplayer golfing game.
Or you've played this game with your friends and they are no longer your friends.
Or I try to play with Jordan and you just hear poof. It's like, oh, okay, I guess that happened.
Oh yeah.
Here's the thing. I tried it. It still does the fucky thing of you have to. It has like 3 options. It's like launch, force OpenGL render, and the third option is like, yeah, well, we know this shit's jacked up and we haven't fixed it yet. And start in full screen borderless, which it doesn't even do that right, but it does manage to launch the damn thing. Single player works. Nothing to complain about. I mean, it's a fun game for all the wrong reasons. The main reason that I've kind of find it entertaining is you have this constant feeling that it's just going to go bizarro, crashy fuckery, which it's done on us multiple times, playing in the after show.
So you're gonna hit that weird angle, and your golf ball's just gonna rocket off. Physics is gonna break, and it's just
I'm thinking more. I'm gonna hit my computer, and it's gonna break, and then I'm gonna have to go buy a new one.
And then I'm gonna throw it out the window, and it's gonna break again.
Oh man! So 7 Days to Die. That's right, the game that has been in alpha since 2013. I'm just saying, Alpha 16 is out, and man. All right, I'll give them this. I'll give them all types of shit for being in early access for this long, but holy fuckballs / shit snacks. Is this a big changelog?
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing with some of these like perpetually early access games. There's legitimate work being done on them. But at some point you got to cut your losses and just say, this is a 1.0. We'll add all this new shit later. For now, let's put out a product.
I mean, they've done things with the animals, reworked enemies, painting, experience progression, skill changes. I mean, keep going. Full gamepad controller support. That's good. They have new recipes, new creative block. They reworked the crafting thing, and I'm going to mention that. New land claim improvements. Apparently, you can claim land in this game now.
They implemented an entire electricity system now, too, so you can, like, build electronics.
Oh, man. Star Trek improvements, mini bike improvements, and a bunch of things have added, which, to kind of go back to what you were saying, J-Man, is... reading in the discussion forums, they're like, how do I download the old version? Because you do run the risk of like actually changing from when you go to massive updates like this from one version to the next. You're changing so many mechanics and adding so many things. Some people genuinely, and I would argue rightfully so, feel like that wasn't the game I like to play. Now this is a different game. It just has the same texture pack on it.
Yeah, I can see that. But that is sort of the risk you play with early access. I mean, if you followed the development of Starbound until that got released, there's like, yeah, we wiped your characters. Sorry, guys. Too bad.
Yeah, survival horror crafting games just don't do it for me, so I got nothing on this one.
Okay, well black and white.
Speaking of alpha, how about the Omega? This is the Universim demo. It's a demo on Steam. Actually, if you want to check this out, Foxy has like an hour-long video. We'll post that in the show notes.
Good. They should borrow it because one of the requirements to be on the Steam store is to have a video, which they do not.
Oh shit! Well, I mean, green light has gone the way of the dodo. I think they don't care. So this is a universe sim where you focus on like building individual planets, and I guess you can drill down to like build life on it, but it's more about the planet building. To which I want to know. Is there an option to include the screaming son from Rick and Morty? Exactly, and the Lion King music is playing in the background while the animals are walking towards Simba and shit. Exactly. I watched a bit of Foxy's thing, and I don't know. God games never really appeal to me because I just have a desire to be a vengeful, wrathful deity / God Emperor and bestow like horrors upon my subjects.
Well, it's not necessarily that, Jordan. You start out and you're like, I don't do this right and all that. No, then you get about 30 minutes in and you're like, this goes against everything I fucking believe in. And you start slaughtering everything.
I don't even get that far. That's like 2.5 minutes in. It's like, okay, I think I got the laws of physics down. Let's start blowing shit up.
Time to pick up my shaman and toss him across the planet.
Well, the important thing is, what was the name of this critter again?
Universe Sim.
Universe Sim demo, currently free. Looks like a Unity piece of kit and system requirements. It runs on the elusive to be announced operating system. So
it runs exclusively on Wayland, Vulkan, and Mir and Mantle, I guess.
Yes, clearly.
Yeah.
Fedora 27 and Ubuntu 1804.
So, hey man, Dark Forces. What's this about?
Dark Forces just got a Steam Depot. What does that mean? It could mean nothing at all, or it could mean that Dark Forces is coming to Linux.
No, man. I'm looking at the extra info. I see Linux listed in Spanish, German, French. It's not listed in Freedom, man. What's up with this communist fucking game?
I think that's the main depot is the English depot, since English rules everything.
That's a bit chauvinistic, don't you think?
It's definitely ethnocentric, but no, it's probably going to be a DOSBox wrapper. This thing, I always assumed it was on the build engine, but apparently it uses its own Jedi engine.
You're 100% right. I always thought it used a build engine, and apparently everybody in the gaming industry thought the same too. It uses the Jedi engine, which a lot of people at that time is like, man, did you just reverse engineer the build engine? Because it's the way it handles the 2.5D stuff is definitely a thing. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not that upset about it being a DOSBox wrapper. I mean, DOSBox is a quality piece of software, and I would rather they use that than like completely fuck up a native port, because it's tried, it's trusted, it's vetted.
The only thing that I would like to see out of a native port that you really can't get out of DOSBox is higher resolution rendering. Mm-hmm. You know, DOSBox, you just have to use a 3x multiplier or whatever, and it doesn't look quite as good, but you know, it was designed for low def, so it'll never look amazing. There is an open source engine reimplementation of this Jedi engine, but it's called the XL engine. It's not looking like it's setting the world on fire, though.
Strider doesn't like DOSBox. Maybe he'll fork it and make something better. Stay tuned next week when we find out how quickly he gave that up.
See, I just installed DOS. Here we have, speaking of DOS, here's a butcher. This, that didn't make any sense at all. I'm not sorry. A bit. I'm trying and I'm failing.
Booker!
It happens. It happens. So, yeah, here we have a nice little platform shooter. Super gory, super dark, so you can't really tell what the hell you're doing as everything explodes around you. It does have a Linux demo. That, guess what? Doesn't work. Nice try, guys. I was impressed. I saw the tar gzip file and I was like, these guys actually knew what they're doing making Linux demos. And then it tried to read my controller configs and immediately crashed. Quick Google search says, that's happening to everybody on Linux right now. So
I got it running on Fedora 26. No issues aside from the fact that it doesn't pick up my controller. But yeah, it is entirely dark themed, and all the sprites are dark, so you can't tell where the fuck the enemies are because they blend in with the background. It's like, oh yeah, it's super hard because you can't fucking see a goddamn thing. It's exactly like the dishwasher. Or
you don't have to worry about it. Do what we did back in the old days, man. Like with Doom, just crank the gamma all the way up so you can. It was like that was like a cheat back in the day.
I mean, I bet you this monitor does support that though, so you're probably right.
Right. Hey, man, I mean, it's a thing. If you're like, hey, I don't see a free demo on the store page, in our show notes, head over there. There's a link to the IndieDB version of it. But I think that's going to wrap up the Steamy bits.
Oh, yeah. Coming up next, we talk about some drivers. It's been a while since we've done that. And also penis monsters. So many penis monsters.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the news. We're going to be getting into some multi-Mesa Vulkan drivery stuff in just a hot second. But we want to thank you for making this nightmare train possible, because it's kind of neat, you know, coming up on 5 years, man.
I know. Actually, this is not quite 5 years. This episode is the last one that you can fit in an 8-bit integer unsigned. So you can, or sign integer. So you can go next week and have to redefine your Linux Gamecast data. Who cares about data structures? This is Linux Gamecast. But we do want to thank a lot of you for supporting us. And if you want to kick us some money, you can head over to linuxgamecast.com, click the support the show button. We got Amazon affiliate links for many, many countries. We got an Amazon.com wish list if you want to just buy us stuff, you want to be our sugar daddy. Or if you want to give us some money via the PayPals, you absolutely can. Bitcoin, we do that shit. We're not on the Ethereum or the Ripple yet, but, you know, give us time. Eventually, we'll get that sorted out, and you can give us all the magical fluctuating internet money that's worth $1 million 1 week and 5 cents the next. But if you want to be a pro, you can head on over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast, where 109 of you, as MT said, have been fooled into giving us money. $191 a month, or not a month, an episode. And if we make it to 200, oh god. Now that Serious Sam BFE has the Vulcans, they're gonna make me play it, the entire thing. I fucking hate that game. My god, it sucks. But we gotta give some thanks to some people who had given us some money for this. Not quite over the Patreons, but the second dirtiest of Sanchez's, Mr. Carlos, has kicked us some money over PayPal. That's pretty nice. Look at that. Look at all that stuff you could buy us. You could just give it to us.
No, man, that's one of the beautiful things about that wish list, man, because we can actually feel like legitimate cam whores. And you can too, and end up on our fine upstanding cannibal wall, Frank here, when he's not busy at choir practice, likes to hold this during the news segment, you know, because we have Bradley, Jill and Steve, Maddie, Erod, Mikhail G., John M., all who have picked us up little bits for this new studio that we're trying to throw together, hopefully to have that in like 3 to 5 weeks. We'll actually see some legitimate process on that. Thanks, everyone. It keeps us from reading a ton of commercials and all that fun stuff. Plus, with the Patreons, there's a bunch of cool stuff. You get early access to all the stuff, access to our Discord, a whole new podcast that you might not even know about called the Pre-Super Shows. So head over there, check that business out. See if you like it, or, you know, support those who support Linux, man. See if you can find some other shows that have affiliate links or want some donations and all that fun stuff. Help that out, because the more the merrier, and it's good times. So that's enough shilling. Let's get into this.
Yes, Mesa, they have an update for July. They are including some OpenGL threaded optimizations, which should massively improve the performance of some games. Borderlands 2 gets a 50% bump. Biocock Infinite, if you're willing to play Eon games on Mesa, you can get a 76% increase in the benchmark. Civ 6, and Alien Isolation as well. That's for like actual Linux ports that don't suck. So how this works is, this is similar to the GL threaded optimizations in the NVIDIA driver. This should theoretically allow you to increase performance on CPU-bound games by allowing you to distribute the work on multiple cores. But you do need to, in your Mesa RC, have XML definitions to specifically whitelist this behavior. They're going to be working on a global whitelist at some point in the future, but for now, until they get everything vetted, you're going to have to turn this on yourself. Would be nice if, like GL threaded optimizations, you could just set an environment variable instead of fucking around with config files. But hey, progress is progress, and it continues to improve the efficacy of the open source drivers. And this isn't just for AMD too. This is for all the Mesa drivers. So if you're on Nuvo, if you're on the Intel, this is all added performance pour vous.
No, it's definitely a good thing. I kind of agree with you on the enable-disabled, especially with the, you know, NVIDIA multi-thread optimizations, because sometimes that will cause legitimate fuckery with some games, and it's nice to be able to switch that on and off instead of doing the all-for-naught approach with this. But
it's not quite that. You still have to whitelist specific applications, but it's in some config file.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I personally think it's pretty awesome that this isn't really just about the Radeon drivers either. This the GL threaded stuff should apply to Radeon SI and Intel and anybody else that's using Mesa, that's pretty cool.
Matrox users rejoice.
Exactly.
Okay. Vulkan driver support. Why are we here? Because there's a little bit of an update, man. Yeah, the developer beta driver downloads got a couple of release notes with this. Not a whole lot to report. We just wanted to give it a mention. Basically, what we have here is a couple of new extensions and performance improvements. That's good times, Empty. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it looks like they're starting to put some extra like semaphores and math or number types in, which maybe this is the beginning of kind of the merging OpenCL and Vulkan thing. I don't know what these extensions would be good for otherwise. It's mostly just semaphores. The other thing I found slightly disturbing is that some of the extensions have Win32 built into them. So I'm not quite sure. I thought that was the whole idea of Vulkan, was to abstract away that kind of thing. But, whatever. Maybe it's just for development purposes. We'll see.
Or perhaps, or maybe there's some weird shit that you need to do on Windows in order to get specific behavior. So
different semaphore semantics, yeah. That's probably.
So this is one of the Vulkan forks. So it's going to be like actually this current version is a little ahead of what we have on the base driver, but the current development version is going to skip ahead. The next beta is probably going to have all this as well, but this is the brand new. If you want the cool Vulkan shit right now, you can download it. The link to that is on the page. The link to that is in our show notes. But speaking of fancy new development.
All right, on to wine staging, the exciting wine releases according to Strider. All the real releases are nothing. It's staging's where all the good stuff hits. And in here, it looks like they've done some pretty big work on the Direct 3D 10 and 11. So getting closer on Assassin's Creed and Witcher 3. Some optimizations for Unigen benchmarking. Couple new little bits and pieces on the DirectX 11. I don't know. It's always good to see Witcher 3 progress being made.
Yeah,
we're never going to get that game on the other way.
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm wondering whether the beginnings for MSI user interface support, the fuck's that, man?
I don't think that's like the motherboard manufacturer. I think like this is one of those weird Windows actor.
Microsoft.
Oh yeah, the installer packages, right? Derp. This shows how long it's been since I've touched a Windows system now, where I've had to write an MSI file using Wix. Fuck. I'm getting some flashbacks.
Good support for that. This might be something you want to play around with, because the last official release of the wines kind of broke some things, caused some issues. People were screamings about stuffs, and that's definitely a thing. If you still use wine, I personally don't, but I'm not against it. But then again, I'm not going to be burning a heretic purchase on Witcher 3 out of principle. So
hey, I can finally test it out, because one copy of Witcher 3 came with my 980.
Right.
Woohoo!
Also, Strider would like everyone to know that Wine Staging 2.12 runs Strider.
Okay.
You can finally run Strider on it.
Oh yeah. All right. Speaking of emulation, Persona 5 now playable in RPCS 3, which is pretty cool. This isn't in mainline just yet. You got to download the specific fork. They're working on integrating it, but they've done some insane amount of work, and now you can 100% Persona 5 on Linux via RPCS 3 with the Vulkan. So if you want to get your chariot tentacled green penis monster on, you absolutely can. The weeaboos are going to be super happy, and I'm legitimately shocked and impressed about the progress of this project, because it's literally been a year, and they have shit fully playable. And this is Persona 5 is brand new too. It just came out, so this is really, really, really impressive. What do you guys think? Empty, I know you do you play Persona?
No, I found it was really interesting, though. They were talking about in the technical details that because of the architecture of the PS3 and the way that you offload everything to the SPUs, it actually runs a bunch of threads on the main processor. And since the emulator doesn't have that parallelization built in, suspending the threads actually makes the game run faster, which is how they managed to make it playable. That's to me, that's crazy that like it's all just a job queuing issue.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just genuinely impressed. Like what they've said here, from not playable in half a year. This is just amazing, especially with this emulator, because we've seen they've managed to keep parity performance-wise between the Linux client and the Windows client. And, they have the Vulcans. It's pretty cool. They also have a Patreon. Go check out their Patreon if this is something, because, I mean, this is just next level moon magic, dealing with the cell architecture and writing an emulator for that. And completely impressed by it. Never played a PS3 game. I give absolute zero fucks about the Persona series. I don't even really know what it is. But yes, this project is beyond neat.
So just to put into perspective for how little you care about this game, Ben, it is a Pokemon dating simulator type thing. Yeah, that's silence. Volumes. Let's talk about Icky Butts.
Oh, good old Icky Butts and his IO Quake auto updater. So a little while back, Icky Butts posted to his Patreons that he was going to try to take on a quick and easy little project to write an auto updater for IO Quake 3, since every time they would update it, everyone's clients would be out of date with all the servers. And he said, boy, wouldn't it be nice if everyone's clients could just automatically keep up to date? And so he wrote it. He wrote it for Mac first, but we'll forgive him since he immediately ported it to Linux too. It basically completely undetectable. It doesn't really run as its own program or anything. It just, when you launch IOQuake, it forks itself off. And then after the main IOQuake process dies, it tries to download a new version of the executable. Next time you start it up, boom, you've run the new executable and your game is updated.
Yeah,
genius.
Man. Well, you see, here's the biggest issue. That this was such an issue that he thought about making it a Patreon goal because enough people were like, yeah, that's awesome. That's something we really need. And Strider's like, you don't ever need that. So it's definitely needed in the community just by that alone. Hey, man, I'm glad it's a thing. Worst case scenario, it syncs everything up for everyone. And yeah, that's a good thing. I wonder if it can handle mods and stuff like that.
Well, we don't know for sure because it's not fully integrated. They just said that they're going to be integrating it into the project. It's still a ways to go. Plus, then you still need to get all the network infrastructure, the build system, code signing, stuff that you need so that you don't get man in the middle and someone installs a bunch of random arbitrary code on your system via your auto updater. But it's still pretty good. Icky Butts is doing some good works thanks to Patreon, so you should go sign up and give him money. But the last thing that we're talking about today is an HTML5 MMORPG. Tell us about it, Empty.
Yeah, it's called Mad World by Jandasoft, and it is an entirely HTML5 powered MMORPG. Just looking at the graphics immediately reminded me of that.
It's Don't Starve.
Don't Starve. That's the one I was trying to think of. Don't Starve mixed in with a little bit of the animation style out of what's the game you were playing on Thursday there, Jordan? Darkest Dungeons.
Borkest Dungeons. Yeah.
Right. So you got kind of the Cthulhu 2D thing going on. Thought it looked pretty neat. And HTML5 for your game engine, I love it. You want to talk about cross-platform from the get-go by design? HTML5 is a good way to do it.
Listen, first of all, I'm completely digging that. I was reading around on their web zone, and they said, our goal is to make this available worldwide before the end of 2018. So don't get in queue just yet. But they also have no plans scheduled for a beta period at this time. It's HTML5. Like, we're doing our own thing. We're doing our engine. And it's like, both Godot and Unity export HTML5, right? You do know that. So I don't understand why reinvent the wheel on this.
Well, I guess this is just designed from Genesis, so you can stick it in an Electron wrapper, you can wrap it in Cordova or whatever, and install it on whatever platform you want. I don't know, maybe these guys thought, hey, let's just write a HTML5 engine because we're crazy motherfuckers, and that's how we roll. I'm always one for improving gaming in the browser, and stuff like this just makes me smile, because soon you're not going to have an excuse, because all the tech will just be... You stream a freaking app from a server because it's a web page.
Are you trying to tell me eventually Chromebooks will make sense?
Hey, if you ask Empty, they make sense right now, and you two can get into your little slap fight while I watch and do other things that we're not going to talk about on the podcast. Because it's a family show, you guys. And speaking of family, we're gonna crawl through some ducts and increment slowly, one frame at a time, in our chairquisition section. Because we're crawling through stars. Get ready to crawl through ducts and run through shadows. Wait, no, that's the other game. This is StarCrawlers. It's from Juggernaut Games, built on the Unity engine. You can tell because of the giant blue screen that pops up when you launch the game. It's about $20 in your local currency. What is it? StarCrawlers is a modern take on a classic CRPG dungeon crawler set in a gritty space punk universe. Build a crew of renegade adventurers on the fringes of spec, taking jobs from megacorps to hunt bounties, sabotage rivals, and conduct corporate espionage. These folks sent us some keys, so let's... I don't know. I keep going to the crawling through buttholes, but I don't want to do that. So let's just cue the chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means meh. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. 4 chairs means it's amazeballs. And we got our categories, Doom. Makes with the working, shiny sounds, and controls. And then fun. So let's kick this off. Then it's StarCrawlers make with the working.
Short and sweet over here on the Ubuntu 1604 LTS box of business with a 980 displayed at UHD, which I didn't really try. Played this at 1080p, no issues, at 60. Even with game recording on top of it, at 60, there's not a whole lot going on. At 60, nothing to report. It's as you said, a Unity game, blue screen. You're like, you wait. Load time's a bit long in the tooth for fuck and or all reasons, but you can't ding it a chair for that. So it's starting off good, man. I got hope for it. Coming out with a 4.
Yeah, even with the NVMe drive and the box of business, you can't stop the Unity blue screen or the long-ass load times. That's probably OpenGL shader rendering. But no issues on Fedora 26, 64-bit with the i7-6700K, GTX 980, and the Samsung 960 EVO. I'm just so happy I have that in the box. 4 cheers.
Well, on the Ryzen 1800X with the GTX 780 Ti, this game made with the working. The very first time that I started it, it would not accept any inputs, but I Alt F4'd, and it has worked flawlessly ever since then. Even at UHD, it manages to maintain decent frame rates until you get into a large area. But, at 1080p, is no problems at all, so we'll give it 4 cheers.
All right, that's 4 cheers for Mixed with the Working. Let's kick off to the shiny and the sounds. Ben, what'd you think? Is it shiny and chrome?
It definitely looked like a video game, Jordan. I must report. A video game like photons were hitting the back of my eye pussies. It's not fugly. It does have there's a lot of characters, 2D characters when you're having the conversations and all that, and especially when you're fighting. And you have the intro screens definitely drawn. Well, the artist was definitely hired on a budget. It's that not quite there look to a lot of the 2D art. 3D stuff, completely passable. I've seen so much worse shit. Love went into this game. You're basically going to be crawling around ships most of the time. Kind of repetitive. Didn't really see any glaring stock assets or store assets thrown in there. So good on that. Your enemies that you fight, they are original, a bit fucky. And when it comes to the sounds, perfectly honest, put on some Slayer with this. There's really nothing to the sounds because it's not voice acted in any way that I could tell unless my system was just completely broken. So, it technically has graphics. The 2D art's kind of meh. The 3D stuff, it's passable. But the sounds, I wouldn't have had it on one way or the either, so I can't really judge that legitimately. But I can give it 2 chairs.
Yeah, definitely for the sounds. I had to check, like, do I have shit going? So I cranked up the volumes on the room speakers. And lo and behold, there was some sound, but there's not a lot. There's a lot of pew-pew in the dungeon. There's some generic, very soft techno, electro, whatever in the background, because this is cyberpunk, and therefore cyberpunk equals techno. I mean, there's the hand-drawn art in the management section and the 3D art in the actual dungeon crawly section. I didn't really feel that there's that big of a dissonance there, and the art's relatively well done. It has its own style, and I think that's perfectly fine. The 3D stuff is good. There's no, like Vince said, there's no stock assets. Everything looks like it should. The dungeons do get a little monotonous at times. I'll get to that a little bit more in the fun section, but I had no issues. This is a pretty good looking game for an indie studio. I'd give it 3 cheers, especially for a Unity game.
Yeah, actually, my first thought when I saw the hub was, oh god, this game is going to be terrible. And then I got into the 3D parts and said, wait, am I still playing the same game here? As it jumped from the hand-drawn art to the, fairly smooth, clean 3D. I was actually kind of reminded of maybe a budget Alien Isolation. The interiors of the ships looked quite nice, I thought. A bit repetitive, perhaps, but pretty solid. Completely uninteractive. That's the only thing that kills me. If you're going to render, keyboards everywhere, and you can only hit the one that has the flashy green light on it, what's the point of putting in all those other keyboards, guys? Come on, really? As far as the sounds went, I actually liked the fairly generic techno music. I thought it was pretty decent. The battle sound effects were terrible. It's the same slashing chink sound effect every time you do your slash move, and the same every time there's an electric attack. So based on the strength of the graphics more than the sound, I'm going to give this 3 chairs.
Well, that still knocks it down to 2 for the shiny and the sounds. So let's kick this off to Control. Ven, I hear you love Pool of Radiance.
Really digging it, Brad. Really digging it. And hey, check this out. This thing does the one move at a time business. You move in a grid. You move just everything else in this game, control-wise, logically laid out. Didn't have to say, all right, how do I open inventory? Everything is fine. Except for that bullshit. Fuck you and your stupid monkey face for putting that in something with mouse look out of the box enabled, so it doesn't work with your brain when you're moving and you're strafing and you're doing all that. No, it's wrong. It's bad. You should feel bad for doing that, and I'm dinging you a chair for it. But once you get over the move in a grid pattern, if I should say, you can get over that, you have something that is a Unity game, and, for the most part, it works. I mean, you're like fighting sequences, you just click over your abilities and you do that. Kind of boring, kind of repetitive, but we'll get to that in the fun section. So I'll throw it a solid 3.
Yeah, back in the day, the whole moving sort of grid by grid, frame by frame thing was a limitation of the technology. If you played games like the SSI Gold Box games, Pool of Radiance, Eye of the Beholder, all that good stuff, these games actually came with a book. And when you run into something, it says, refer to page X on the game manual, and lo and behold, you will get your description and whatnot. Later editions of the games actually integrated all the descriptive text in there. But when you give people like a pseudo first-person mouse look, by default, immediately your brain's going to jump to, oh, I control this like I do in FPS, which is wrong. There's also the issue where when you hit the S and D, sometimes you'll turn, sometimes you won't. It depends, especially in sections where you need to be kind of nimble to like duck past cameras and whatnot. It becomes really, really awkward. The other issue is that the hotkeys are all over the damn place. B is what brings you to your inventory screen. L is what gives you your character abilities. It's just weird as shit. Everything works, so I'm only gonna ding it a chair for that. But yeah, it's weird. 3 chairs.
All right, what was fun? Well, I'm going to tell you that the first time that Maitre D bot called in a bus bot.
Whoa. This is controls.
Oh, this is controls. Whoops, my bad. Okay, controls. Yeah, I promised you some train wreck, and here it is. Controls are your perfectly standard Legend of Grimrock style, moving on the grid, rotating 90 degrees at a time. Except that this game does something that I've never seen before in one of those type of games, and it gives you full mouse look. So you can mouse look yourself around 180 degrees and then press up, and you'll walk the direction that you're looking. Most of these kind of games kind of limit you to that 90 degree wedge in the direction you're facing with your mouse look. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, other than that, I'm going to have to agree with Jordan. The shortcut keys are scattered all over the place. And I don't know why, but I could never train my brain to properly choose between the rotate and the strafe. Mm-hmm. I would always want to strafe left and end up turning left, or want to turn left and end up strafing left. So not horrifically broken. They maybe could have figured out something a little better, though. And I'm going to say that maybe the grid should have gone, but 3 chairs.
Yeah, one other little nitpick I forgot to mention is, like, there's all sorts of items that are scattered throughout the dungeons, I guess, and depending on where you are, you may or may not be able to interact with them. So there's a little bit of fucking around with that. It's no big deal, but it's still a little nitpick. Anyways, it's 3 chairs for controls. Let's mosey on over to the fun section. Ven, surprise us.
Oh, I'm prepared to be surprised and amazed. Not really. Not at all. Not in the slightest. This is Dungeon Crawler. Is not my cup of chainsaw. Like, right out of the box. You know, then the combat's turn-based. So, out of that box, it's already dead to me on top of it. But I still had to go. I still put time in it, because you have to approach these things saying, maybe this will be the one. This is going to be the one that I'm going to kind of like. To this day, the closest turn-based anything that kind of had me come back has been XCOM 2 Gonna Give It To You. Hashtag DMX got locked up again. But here's the thing, man. It's just not fun. I mean, there's nothing here I've not hated on before. I mean, outside of just the blatant fuckery of having the grid-based movement in a 3D environment with a mouse look. Your brain the entire time is going, nope, 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 just hammering on the nope button. This is wrong. And it kind of is. Empty said Legend of Grimrock. That's a good example. That's kind of how I would expect that to work. Or Fight Night. All right, I kind of get it. I understand. Maybe that works better. This... One thing that also drove me crazy, fucked with my fun, what little fun I was able to extract out of this, is every time you engage in battle, you have the enemy in front of you, you approach it, and it's like, oh, fight incoming and all that. They just have like a generic background that has nothing to do with the actual part of the ship or station or wherever you may happen to be. So once you complete the fight, which can take a few minutes, and these are maze-like ships, as far as I was able to get into. Like, where the fuck am I? Was I coming or going? I can barely decide. And I felt myself being lost, so I ended up just relying on the damn map and making a note of that, which I just... Maybe that's something you might want to fix. But, man, at the end of the day, I am done with the game. I've currently uninstalled the game. It's not the game's fault. I don't think it brings anything new to the table. I don't like juggling stats. I don't like constantly comparing weapons, loot drops. I know Jordan and Empty are more inclined to these types of games, but yeah, I'm doing this for people like me. He's like, hey man, I don't like dungeon crawlers all that much, and I sure as fuck don't like turn-based strategy games. This in no way is going to change your mind, and you would also give it 1 chair.
Yeah, I mean, for what it is, it's not a bad little cyberpunk-themed dungeon crawler. There are a couple nitpicks, though, because the dungeons are really all the same. They're they're large and labyrinthine and all interconnected, so there's branching pathways, and you don't feel too bad about taking one path or another, because they'll eventually all meet up somewhere, so that's all well and good. You can essentially accomplish the same thing by going to donjon.bin.sh and using their map generator. I'm pretty sure they're using something similar. Everything, I mean, and there are some excuses. If you have a hacker or an engineer on the team, they usually throw in some obstacles that say, hey, you can bypass this if you have the right party member, which is nice. I like having that in there. Everything else is pretty standard RPG fare, which I enjoy. There are drunk robots that are aware they can't drink, but they're drunk nonetheless. I mean, if you played Eye of the Beholder, if you played Pool of Radiance, Legend of Grimrock, any of the SSI stuff, this is nothing new to you. If you like that sort of game, this is going to be up your alley. I will say that some of the humor does fall flat there, but there's an attempt. They at least try to be witty. They try to do something different. There's this whole corporate warfare mechanic that I've just started to scratch the surface with, where like you find stuff in dungeons that you can auction off, which will increase or decrease your rep with certain parties, and doing missions will increase or decrease your rep with certain parties. I haven't maxed out that slider yet for any of the corps, so they haven't sent any assassins or anything after me. I don't know what actually happens. But you know what? Since we're not getting the second Legend of Grimrock, if you need something that will fulfill that itch, this will do in a pinch. I'll give it 3 cheers. Now,
right.
MT, now you tell us about the fun.
Let's try this again. What was fun and what wasn't? Well, I'm not gonna lie. Some of the humor definitely worked. The first time the maitre d' bot called in a bus bot and the bus bot started throwing dirty plates at me, I may have laughed out loud for a solid minute. But the 15th time that happened, I was no longer laughing, and it felt more like unfun grinding. And that's really where this game goes wrong, is the first time you fight a set of enemies, it's fun. The 10th time you fight the exact same set of enemies, it's not fun anymore. They could have done something like mixing it up, or, different party compositions or anything to just, change your strategies up, but they didn't. So every fight goes exactly the same way. You use the exact same moves again and again in the right order until it's over. No challenge, no real sense of accomplishment when you win, other than the small bit of experience that you get. That's kind of the story of this game. It started out strong and proved that it didn't really have any depth. So I'm going to have to give it 2 chairs.
So spooky. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's 2 chairs for the fun. If we tally everything up, it gets the Strider, aka 2 chairs. So, final thoughts, gentlemen? Mentalgen?
Something I didn't bring up with the fun section. Just with the grindy, the turn-based fighting and all that. That's bad enough. You brought it up, is the fucking text political bullshit extra layer of, really, I'm already having a fucking bad time game. Now I gotta chug through goddamn 10 minutes of unvoiced dialogue on top of everything else, and the game's like, hell yeah, man. Not a big fan of that. Fuck it.
I actually thought I was going to like this game a lot more than I ended up liking it. I was actually having a pretty good time at first as I was kind of, figuring out what was going on. And then I went into this big room and I had to do 10 fights in a row against the exact same set of robots. And by the time I got to the end of that, it wasn't there anymore. There was no joy. There was no excitement. And I think I died soon after, and that was pretty much the end, and I don't think I'm going back.
I mean, it's an alright game. I enjoyed it for what it was. Dungeon crawlers are kind of hamstrung with this sort of format. The sort of Neverwinter Nights-esque Sword Coast Legends RPG is sort of a natural evolution of this, where it's an evolution on the old format with fewer limitations, so you can actually show everything and have large, expansive maps. So this will always be some sort of weird, archaic throwback, and if you're not into it, you're not going to be into it. And yeah, definitely really the tension in this game comes from, am I going to have enough hit points by the end of it to actually complete the objective? And if that doesn't do anything for you, it's not going to do anything for you. So coming up next, we have an uncharacteristically large hate mail segment where, well, there's some Pedro hate. Good thing he's not around to defend himself. Well, it's about that time. We're going to hit the old dusty trail. But before we do, we like to, make this a bit of a two-way street. If you want to get in touch with us, you can head on over to LinuxGameCast.com. There's a contact button. You can press it. There's more buttons that you need to press. It's kind of crazy. You select the show. If you want to give some shows, or if you want to give some grief to the Wednesday crew, you can select that. Otherwise, select Linux Gamecast Weekly. Fill out all the forms. You can read. If you can't, then why are you here in the first place? How did you get on the internet? Welcome. It's a horrible place. Run while you can. Anyways, we got some lovely, lovely hate mail from the peoples. First up comes from Freyr, the Asgard High Council. Has some news for us. They say, thought this could be useful information for the viewers. This is one of the features that the proprietary drivers don't have. He has a link here to some WordPress blog where they have a little Mesa HUD that you can compile, install, and then you can run it and get some performance statistics out of Mesa right on top of your application or your desktop or whatever. I don't think any of us are on the open source drivers, so we can't really comment on whether this works well or not. But it's a fairly comprehensive article. They have some stuff, so if you're on the open source drivers, maybe give this a little check out. Yeah.
I think you can use the overlay even with basically anything, though. I'm not going to swear to this, but
oh yeah, I'm not going to make any claims to the contrary or in support of it because I legitimately do not know.
No, I mean that's the thing, man. People don't know about this, but I mean it's going to show you your FERPs, your CPU, GPU load, all stuff that you can do individually. If HTOP, and you can open up NVIDIA control panel and all that, but it's all there, nice little graphs, and you can watch those gears spin.
Corkscrews.
Yeah, man. That's definitely a thing. Go check it out. Links to that business in the show notes. Irritan was talking about last week's show. He's like, hey, man, I'm watching the scene around 1 hour, 1 minute where Michael is describing... Oh, Foxy is describing what he... Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. What he hated about the game. So I guess he's at the fun section. And the lower third in Shot Realm, the IRC, is talking about what happened to Mathieu. Reading this, I'm laughing my head off and feel that I'm getting my money's worth. Sweet, man. I'm glad somebody is. I forget exactly what the conversation was that transpired. But do you ever notice this, Tihan? There's quite often, a chasm between what's going on in the show and what's going on in Shot Realm.
Yes, there's a bit of a delay.
I think that's kind of the best part, though. It's like a little extra. I'm watching Chat Realm all the time because they're always going about crazy shit. It's always fun to watch. Maybe I should be paying attention to what I'm saying. But where's the fun in that? Empty, why don't you take the last one?
Yeah, well, we've got, I don't even have it open. Thank you. Some more train wreck for y'all. So, Monster Cam. All right. I find it funny how M. Fox thinks being a pedo? Oh, a Pedro. I get it. That's pretty funny, Monster Cam. You're calling Pedro a pedo.
That joke is going to echo through history. No, go
on. He could never replace Pedro, but certainly could try.
Yeah, I mean, he has big bushy beard. Maybe if Pedro grew a big bushy beard, wrapped up in brown blankets. I don't know, man.
The U.S. would send a drone after him?
Probably.
No, man. I guess. Maybe it's a compliment. Maybe it's not. I don't know, man. Why don't you fly over to the UK and mock him for not having internet? Right, because we can't make fun of Pedro right now because it's like making fun of the Amish online. They're never going to see it. So we got a couple more weeks of that with Pedro, and that's
I mean, I make fun of the Amish online. I don't give a shit.
oh snap!
Friggin' barn raisers.
You gotta watch out for that Amish mafia. They are not to be trifled with.
Yeah, they'll drive by you in a horse and buggy with like flintlock pistols. Yeah,
Throw flaming dung at you.
I thought you were
not
gonna
a
say a
good
flaming
scene.
dog, and I was like, wait a minute, the Amish are awesome.
Amish are hardcore, man.
Well, I mean, they could do it because I've naturally have watched more than one documentary on the Amish. Is that they use like the scooters too? You know, like the skateboard on wheels from Back to the Future type thing. So
Yeah, it's actually the Mennonites who can't use technology. The Amish sometimes do.
well, the Amish have some like weird air powered shit going on too, like air powered blenders and all that fun stuff.
And a lot of the time too, they'll come over to do a barn raising, and they won't bring any of their own tools because they can't have their own power tools, but they'll gladly use your power tools to build your barn. So,
Well, welcome back to Linux Amish Cast, you guys. I
was about to say, I think that's we're going to tear that Amish.
this is our
barn
cue to
down
get
and,
out of here.
Yeah, and put a bow on it. It's been a long one. It's been a fun one. We'd enjoyed it. Hope you have as well. If you want to, you can sit back, brace yourself, because we're going to cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Moon Time. I'm at Vince Stone on the Twitter nets, plus Vince Stone, G+. If you want to get notified when we go live, easiest way to do that, subscribe to the YouTube, smash that like button, fam. Hit the bell thing. It'll give you
Can we get 1 million likes?
when
We
go
need 1
live.
million
or
likes.
just check out the schedule because we do 2 additional live streams, gaming streams during the week. We might be mixing that up in the future. Plus, we have a show on Wednesdays, and that's just the general Linuxy fun bits.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me consistently disgracing the memory of Menno Simmons and just being an all-around dick to people at The Burning Fool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on Google+.
And I am Mike Tehan. You can tweet at me at Leprechaun for Life on Twitter, although I haven't checked it in months. Really, if you want to shout in my direction, plus Mike Tehan on Google Plus is the way to go about it.
All right. Did we learn anything this week?
We learned a fuck ton about the Amish.
Yeah.
That's the important part.
Yeah, well, ultimately.
At least it's something. What we learned, don't make the same mistakes again.
Well, I mean, same mistakes are best mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, it is the definition of insanity, and we are insane.
I mean, it genuinely proves we're not that clever.
Not
Indeed.
at all.
Or original. I mean, if we got a bit or a thing, man, we're just going to run it to the ground.
That's literally what the fucking horse
Flog
is
that
about.
horse to death.
That is literally what that is about. We were beating that dead horse, and then it became its own thing.
That was Jordan's like, don't you think we're kind of wearing this thing down with the steam? And it was like, yep, now it's an official segment.
5 dudes.